Hello everyone, it's Foo here, and today I want to talk to you about Mega Malamar. I've been so excited for this Pokemon. I am a Malamar enjoyer. Back in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, one of my favourite teams featured a Malamar. It had funky skill swap shenanigans with Hydrapple, giving it the contrary ability, so Hydrapple's powerful Leaf Storms and Draco Meteors boosted its special attack even further. Meanwhile, Malamar was doing tricksy things like setting up Trick Room and going for accurate hypnosises after Hydrapple's Super Sweet Syrup has activated twice. And in that team, Malamar was as much of a star as Hydrapple was, so I really fell in love with the Pokemon, and I was so hyped when I saw that it was going to be getting a Mega Evolution. However, this video is probably going to be a salient lesson about expectation management. But before we get into it, I want to take you through some very relevant Pokemon history. I hope you're sitting comfortably. Back in February 2016, Pokemon Sun and Moon were announced, and through the following months we had some very exciting Pokemon reveals. In August 2016, it was the Pokemon World Championships, and Crabrawler was revealed in the opening ceremony in a pretty extraordinary way. So Crabrawler was shown seemingly one-shotting all of the meta threats at the time in competitive Pokemon. Ferrothorn goes down, Landorus Therian goes down, even a Cresselia goes down. This Pokemon must be really strong. At the same time, a reveal trailer was uploaded to YouTube, and this revealed Sandygast and Stuffle, both of which were revealed alongside their evolutions. So we saw Palisand and we saw Beware, so we knew that these Pokemon evolved. Crabrawler was still only shown on its own, with no evolution, further supporting the idea that Crabrawler itself was going to be a strong basic Pokemon that was going to be powerful in battle. November 2016, the games come out, and we all find out that no, Crabrawler is an early route fighting type Pokemon that does indeed evolve. It has very poor stats and will never ever be competitively relevant. So the World Championships reveal trailer for Crabrawler, just egregious gaslighting. Fast forward to 2025, and we have the awesome My Friend Malamar campaign, teasing a Mega Evolution for Malamar, which was eventually revealed a few days after. People pretended to be hypnotized by Mega Malamar, saying how great and awesome it was. Loads of people bought into it, and it was a very exciting time. I love the design of Mega Malamar. I think it looks great. Its tentacles kind of look like the folds of a bulging brain, and the flashing lights for the hypnosis. I think it looks fantastic. Everything was promising for Mega Malamar to be awesome. Then the game drops, and we finally get our hands on Mega Malamar, and it is so disappointing. It is by far the worst Mega. That is really just based on its stats, because that's all we have to go on at the moment, and I'll talk more about potential abilities later on. But it's particularly ironic considering Mega Malamar's reveal trailers, where it was hypnotizing everyone to believe it was amazing. Now we know more about Mega Malamar, it definitely needs its hypnosis tricks to make anyone think it is a good Mega Evolution. Mega Malamar retains the Psychic Dark typing, which is kind of fine. Defensively, it has two weaknesses, one of which is to Bug, and with the ubiquity of U-turn, that's a pretty bad weakness to have. And it has one immunity and no resistances to speak of, so not great defensively. Offensively, it's okay. Psychic Dark with fighting type coverage is pretty decent coverage. But the stats are underwhelming to say the least. It gains 10 in its attack, which was previously its main attacking stat, especially because it has the contrary ability in its base form, and with superpower it could boost up its attack and become a bit of a physical sweeper. But with only a 10-point boost, it doesn't seem like the designers had doubling down on that strategy in mind when they were creating Mega Malamar. Instead, Malamar gains 30 points in its special attack stat, but that only leaves it at base 98 attack, which is very low. It's like so bad. Most competitively relevant Pokemon will have a higher attacking stat than that, so it's just abysmal. If they were trying to make this thing a special attacker, they needed to like reduce its attack stat and pump its special attack stat so much higher. So that's super disappointing, and it's really hard to know with base 102 attack and base 98 special attack, what are you supposed to do offensively with this Pokemon? Malamar does gain 45 points in its special defense, meaning that it is more specially bulky, although base 120 special defense is still not huge considering this is a Mega Pokemon, but it will be able to take some special hits. and it gains 15 points in its speed, putting it at 88 speed, which is such an odd speed tier to hit. Like, it's not fast in any means, and so again, those stat points seem a little bit redundant. It just doesn't seem to be a very well designed or thought through Pokemon. When you've got things like Mega Beedrill, where they really optimized its stat spread, it's hard to know what optimization was going here. What are we meant to do with Mega Malamar? So is there any good news? Is there any hope for Mega Malamar? Well, I think all of this hinges on its ability, which we do not know at this point, and we'll only find out when this Pokemon is present in a game with abilities, which will presumably be Pokemon Champions. A lot of people have said that they're hoping for Contrary, which is a very good ability, especially in doubles when Intimidator's everywhere, so you get free attack boosts. Going for Superpower can boost your attack further, and so that base 102 attack is actually maybe deceptively low, and it will easily be boosted and you can do damage that way. But if that's the case, then it just seems like such a waste having so many points invested into its special attack. Why not put 30 extra points in its attack stat? And then this Pokemon actually does seem threatening with that Superpower Contrary boosting. Considering that's not the way the design team went, I really doubt that Contrary is going to be its ability, unless it gets any new attacks, which usually drop special attack, but with Contrary would boost Malamar's special attack. Maybe we'll see that in whichever game it gains an ability, it also gains some moveset buffs. I very much doubt, though, it will ever get Psycho Boost, because that is Deoxys's signature attack, and why on earth would Malamar randomly get a mythical signature attack? It just doesn't make sense. The ability that I really want Mega Malamar to get is No Guard, for a couple of reasons. It would give Mega Malamar No Guard Hypnosis, which I think would be so great because obviously, one, thematically, it's like this incredibly powerful Hypnosis Pokemon. It made everyone say My Friend Malamar and love it, and so for Hypnosis to be its signature move would just be perfect. And two, we don't have a No Guard Hypnosis user yet. It would be 100% reliable sleep. On a relatively fast Pokemon like Base 88, for a Pokemon with 100% accurate sleep, would be the fastest Pokemon, aside from Toedscruel, which has Mycelium Might, which means it always moves last. So that could be a real niche for it. And also Hypnosis, grass types aren't immune to that. So unlike Spore, you could just kind of spam it unless, say, Electric Terrain's up or they have a Pokemon with an ability which would mean it's immune to sleep or status moves. I think that could be quite powerful for this Pokemon. It would mean that the 15 points in its speed stat would actually be relevant. It would mean that its special defense boost could be relevant as more of a utility Pokemon. Surviving and getting more Hypnosis off, I think would be great. And it also has all of its support move pool too. You still have stuff like Trick Room and Topsy-Turvy. But the other thing that I think would be cool with this is Malamar gets access to Skill Swap. So this would be our first No Guard Skill Swap user, and that could unlock some really cool strategies with Pokemon using moves that you generally don't see very much because they're unreliable due to low accuracy. So that could be very fun. The only issue there would obviously be one-hit KO moves, because if you've got a Skill Swap No Guard Pokemon with one-hit KO moves in the double format, you just give your partner No Guard and then spam the one-hit KO moves. But it would give Mega Malamar a niche, and maybe that's what the design team were going for. Who knows? I personally think this would be super cool to see. It would be a very gimmicky strategy, and I think people would see through it quite well as well. But I would love to see it, to be honest, because it would actually mean that Mega Malamar sets itself apart. Another ability that would be interesting for Mega Malamar to get would be Prankster, and that's really mainly because of its signature move Topsy-Turvy. Topsy-Turvy inverts stat boosts and stat drops for the target, and so its main use case is to swap the stat boosts of the opponent's setup sweeper. But the issue is most setup sweepers boost their damage output and their speed, so they will outspeed Malamar and threaten it before it gets a chance to use Topsy-Turvy. But with Prankster, your Topsy-Turvy would have priority, so you could get it off before the opponent could sweep through your team with their sweeper. So that would be really interesting and cool, and it would give Malamar a real niche. Aside from that, though, it doesn't have a ton of moves that will be affected by Prankster, so it would really be that one niche use. Still, I appreciate any intentional design that brings new strategies to the table, and making Topsy-Turvy viable would be really interesting. It would be nice to have a boost to its offenses, so an ability that gives it a power boost would be great. Adaptability is maybe an option there because a lot of aquatic Pokemon get it. Things like Dragalge, Basculin, Feebas, and Crawdaunt all live in the water. They all get adaptability. This thing does live in the water. We see it around water in most games. It's not a water type itself, but I think that it would be reasonable to give it adaptability and boost its offensive output despite its low stats. However, it wouldn't be a very original way to buff a Mega Pokemon because we already see Mega Beedrill and Mega Lucario with this ability, so I'm kind of hoping for something different. And that's where we come to my final suggestion, which is give it a completely new, bespoke ability. We've seen in recent generations what I would refer to as an ability creep. Pokemon are getting better and better abilities. For example, Goldengo has the Good as Gold ability, which makes it immune to all status moves, which is just broken. It is just broken, it's so strong. I'm not saying that this Pokemon will get that ability, I'm just saying that if they create a new ability, it would hopefully be very strong. Other examples of ability creep are Pokemon with abilities that actually compound multiple effects together. They really are multiple abilities, but all crammed into one, so you get this one mega ability. And examples of those include Araquanid with its Water Bubble ability. It gives it burn immunity, so that's Water Veil as a different ability, but also a resistance to fire type moves, which is kind of half of Heat Proof or Thick Fat. And then on top of that, all of its water type moves get a 2x damage boost, which is an incredible effect on its own. If it just had that effect, that would be an incredible ability. But the other two effects come along with it, making this super ability, which is very, very strong. Other examples are Garganacl, which has immunity to all status moves and a resistance to ghost type moves, which is such a good ability. And then we can look at Koraidon and Miraidon. Their abilities set up sun and electric terrain respectively, and also give them a stat boost when those effects are up. So all of these abilities, they kind of stack effects to make very strong abilities. So there's potential that Mega Malamar will get a new bespoke ability, and if it does, the chances are that that ability will be good, because in newer generations, new abilities tend to be stronger than old abilities. I'm still pretty disappointed with how Mega Malamar's turned out on the stats perspective. It looks like it should be a lot faster, and it looks like it should be a lot more powerful on the special side, I would say. So I was expecting for it to maybe drop its attack and probably some of its defenses too, to be a very fast special sweeper, but that's not what we've got. With what we've got though, I still think that there's a chance this Pokemon could be really interesting. So for now, we just have to wait and see what that ability will be. But learning from the Crabrawler example and the Mega Malamar stats example, I'm not going to raise my expectations too much. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Mega Malamar in the comment section below. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.
You